Hey guys, this is Rurouni K95 here. Today's discussion video, I want to be doing something here about with the whole leaps and bounds kind of thing of how I have the whole thing of what I'm going to be talking about is the different types of collecting on here for the first time on this one. What is the different types of collecting, you may ask? Well, it's basically of what you have is because I have different commons of how I've been collecting as well. Especially like from what I understand for this in the whole variety of sort of way of how I've been getting into the whole of this as well. Excuse me. For the whole thing about I have collecting different types of collecting in the whole variety of sort of way as well. If you ask me though, is that this has gotten to my thing though, of what's in the case though. For some of the obvious things is that, and it got to me for here at once, is that once there was all these types of collecting, for example, like collecting manga books, collecting anime on DVDs and Blu-rays, collecting Gunpla, collecting anime figures from Kotobukiya, Banpresto, other ones as well, in general. And also, collecting video games, collecting movies on DVD, VHSs, Blu-rays, Laserdiscs, and 4K Ultra HDs, as well as book collecting, CDs collecting, vinyl record collecting, and comic book collecting, as well on every other occasions on all sorts of stuff as well. Well, for the thing is that this how it's got to me of how I wanted to get to the whole point of this as well, because I have been collecting a lot of anime on DVD and Blu-ray, because there are some there is also some anime on video CDs or VCDs for short, or whatever, where you could find them in the library if they were available, especially the ones that were donated. But the majority was mostly I get are DVDs and Blu-rays I have been collecting as well, because that's got to my point as well. Excuse me. The whole meaning thing as well as of how you ever been getting into the whole thing of this as well. And same goes with collecting manga books, either if you get them in English or Japanese or any ones in general, especially if it's available as well, particularly because this when it comes to having these kinds of collecting is that this particularly have how it's gotten to my case is for the whole thing of how you wanted to get more of those as well. Excuse me. Probably some movies and television series as well as cartoons on there. On DVD as well as Blu-rays as well. Same goes with, especially from home video title companies on here. Either it's from Arrow Video, Scream Factory, Shout Factory, Kino Lorber Studio Classics, Criterion Collections, etc. as well. Because this how it's got to me of how it's getting into the whole thing of how what I've been wanting to be getting into the whole thing of collecting, into the whole point of view of how as well. Well, back in 2006, I mean, I used to collect a lot of VHS tapes. Well, back then I haven't been collecting anime DVDs. I just collected were on. Well, back in 2006, I just collected like VHS tapes, especially ones I get are from like I go to like thrift shops as well as Goodwill stores, flea markets, as well as eBay as well. Probably Hollywood Video also. I think I used to collect a lot of VHS tapes on here. Well, despite though that VHS tapes were old in their obsolete format, because apparently they stopped producing VHS tapes as well, particularly because they're the old obsolete format. Excuse me. I think that's basically around the time when DVDs and Blu-rays and 4K Ultra HDs started to take over, though. Particularly of what it has got to me, though, of how I've been wanting to getting into the whole point of collecting in the whole different types, whether our hobbies and passion as well, particularly of what you're proud of what you got as well, particularly of how you want to collect something in. Like, if you ever been a collector of all things as well. Because I have my pseudo of how I've been getting into the thing of how I've been collecting manga, and anime, gunpla, video games, probably some movies, television, and cartoons, especially like on DVDs and Blu-rays and 4K Ultras. Pretty soon I will get 4K Ultras at one point, because I have a feeling particularly I wanted to upgrade something to 4K Ultras as well, because, well, 4K Ultras starting to basically of how it has more good quality than the VHSs were as well. And I could be all for this as once, is that of how I'm giving in some points and examples in my own little leaps and bounds kind of thing of how you're basically wanting to figure out a way of how you want to be collecting as well. It's more different than collecting baseball cards, or if you've ever been a fan of collecting these as well, then especially, and all saying goes to those like this. If you like collecting vintage stuff and you're a big fan of those, especially if you ever been to a vintage shops, as well as if you go find something on eBay or flea markets as well, and you ever been, and also probably some thrift shops also, and same goes with Salvation Army as well. Sure. Either you can find collector's plates or something under entertainment or something. Or vintage antiques as well, particularly, like specific ones as well. And there's also, and goes with collecting 8-track tapes as well as audio cassettes on here. If it ever been getting to the thing of this as well, if you ask me though. So for the thing is that this basically of how got to this as well, as that you have these kinds of hobby collecting though. I may not because I have collected not only anime and manga and gunpla, as well as video games. There's other collectings. I have collected movies and television series and cartoons on DVD and Blu-ray as well, and there's also probably some soundtracks I had on CDs as well I collected as well. Which is basically more different than other ones in general out there. And this how it's got to me though, is that this how it's got me into the whole proper way of how I remembered, is that you're basically wanted to, for the fact as well. If you love collecting Goosebumps and you're a fan of collecting these kinds as well, especially if you ever been a fan of collecting the Goosebumps books as well, particularly. Well, I mean, I used to collect a lot of Goosebumps books, but until around, I think I might have stopped collecting them after 2008 as well. Apparently, because I have not been buying that much of the Goosebumps books as well, because this how it's got to the thing as well. Probably there's also light novel collectors as well. Although I haven't been collecting light novels in a while, since 2022, which was The Surprise of Haruhi Suzumiya, which I'm guessing it was basically the last light novel I bought as well. Because, which is more different in the same way how I stopped collecting Goosebumps books, because I don't really collect that much Goosebumps books as I thought I would. I mean, I like these, but I have not collected any of their other ones, because the other ones just, I haven't read those that much. Which I have got to the thing as well. Which is kind of acquaintance, though, as well, particularly. Furthermore, if you ever been questioned to me if others been in other types of collecting hobbies as well, or something. Others seen them. Some of them may collect, like, electric guitars, or basically guitar amps, or any kinds as well. If they ever been always getting anonymously, though, of how they've been collecting it as well. Yeah, because this is how it's got to the thing as well. Okay, there's also music band patches collecting as well. Most of them collect those, as well as accessories and stuff as well. As well as music necklace charms on there. Like, if you ever been a fan of collecting those, then that's these medallions or jewelries as well, particularly. I mean, if you ever been a fan of collecting medallions and you ever collect a lot of those as well, well, there's obvious ones you can find at a local malls or any outlets or whatever they have as well. Particularly that, which is more different than any others have done before as well. Okay, sorry, I was a little tired because it's just a video I'm always wanted to make an explanation about different types of collecting hobbies as well. If you ever been getting into the whole thing as well. As for this as well, some of them may collect model trains as well. Like, if they ever do this, or most of them collect, like, other ones in general, particularly. Like, they collect vintage retro 80s stuff, like these collectibles that they had from when they were in their childhood in the past as well. Especially for those as well. If they ever been always wanted to be anonymously for that as well. Because this how it's gotten to me for this as well, is that you would think, though, is that you basically wanted to figure out a way of how I've been getting to all this as well. And also, some of them may collect rock music albums on CDs, or most of them collect hip-hop and rap music on CDs, though. Yeah, because, especially for the CD collectors, though, as well. Or any types of music on CDs, as well as collecting soundtracks on CDs, as well as music compilations on CDs that some of them may collect, though. Especially for, like, CD collectors as well. You know, some of them may collect albums on CDs, or on vinyl, collecting them on vinyl records, especially, as well. Okay, especially, if you ever been a fan of collecting vinyl records, and you're a fan of those, especially if you have, like, a record player, and you want to collect any album you wanted as well. Some of them as well, particularly. Okay, for those who have been basically wanting to realize for the fact. Furthermore, anybody has ever wanted to know for the fact if they ever been collecting vintage comic books that are in these plastic wraps on there, especially if you find them at local comic shops or anywhere out there as well, or something like that as well. If you ever been collecting that, or as well as collecting movie posters as a movie poster collector on any certain ways as well, as far as I know as well. This is how it's luckily how it ever came to be any of this as well. This how it as well. Most of them as well. Some of them basically collect memorabilias of music groups, as well as basically collecting memorabilias of movies in general as well. If they ever thought of it or been really infamously anonymously of how what just to their hobbies as well, of how this basically of what is the reason of the thing as well, particularly. Okay, and this how it's gotten to the thing though, as far as I know as well. And also, if you ever been collecting iPods and or MP3 players as well, you want to, and you're a fan of collecting those, especially if you ever have those, especially if you buy these products from that as well. And this basically just gives up to the point as well, from what I can learn about this as well. And yeah, it still seemed that got into my case for the own little theory that I would remember as far as I know as well. And that's what I could remember now, is that this explains that, which all I could know for this as well. It could be all at once for that. Technically, though, is that every types of collecting something on CDs as well. And there's also video game collecting. Like, if you ever been a fan of collecting old Nintendo games, like these retro video games on there, and you ever been a fan of collecting these games, there's a lot of them out there, especially. And also, same goes with collecting Sega Genesis games on there as well. And you ever been a fan of those? This is particularly the reason how for video game collectors could get as well. And okay, most of them you can find them at these old used video games shops as well, particularly. Like if they ever want to find something as well, especially for what they were looking for as well, as which I could remember as I know as well. And this it all has got to me is that I wanted to realize of what I wanted to get to the whole point of how this whole different types of collecting. Yeah, I have collected some PS4 games on here, but I don't think I have been to Games Shop downstairs. Well, I think I have been as well, but that used game store as well, where they had like these like DVDs and VHSs as well. Probably some other cool ones as well. As if I'm not mistaken though as well. You know, most of them you can find like these older games as well. Like you can go to like as well. And if you want to look for like these older games from like for the PlayStation 2 or PlayStation 3, there's a lot out there as well. Because, especially for like for the gamers who wanted to start the video game collection as well, as if you ever been realize over the fact though. Although I haven't been collecting PS4 video games in a while though, I think I have owned about, I believe it was only 4 of those that I got as well. Because I have a feeling basically, because, well, it's just basically how I have been collecting in a while as well. If you want to remember though as well, if I could remember this, which I can know for all at once as well. And this basically, it's gotten into my theory though as well. So this points out as well and I could remember it all at once for this as well, particularly for the whole thing on that as well, of how you get into the whole thing of how I can know for this as well. And yeah, because this what I remembered as well. For a moment though, is that I wanted to have the reason as well. And it's just great thing though is that you have this kind of well technically is that you wanted to know of how in the whole point of collecting as well. It's more different than the other ones in general before as well. This could have been of all of these things for the different types of collecting hobbies, especially whether there are hobbies and passions of what you're proud of as well. For the whole little credibility for the results as well. To create the testimony as well of different types as well of collectors. And there's also some VHS collectors out there, especially if they can get at it on Facebook marketplaces or eBay or Amazon online, or Salvation Armies or Goodwill stores or Savers. Let's not forget as well about Savers, which I forgot to mention as well. Of how this basically has got to me though, because this what I remember of how about I've been getting into the whole thing of the whole collecting variety sort of way, like so to speak though. And this how it's gotten to me though is that to me, I have been getting into the whole thing of collecting because I have been collecting manga since 2014, though. Well, yeah, because I wanted to get more manga books as well. In the same way how I have wanted to collect anime on DVD. Well, back in 2003, my first anime on DVD that I had was Mobile Suit Gundam The 8th MST Miller's Report, which was my first one on DVD I have got as well. But however, later on in 2014, Cowboy Bebop the movie was the anime movie on DVD that I have ever bought as well. Like, especially if ever I see DVDs of anime, I had to collect those as well. As same goes with the manga as well, if I'm not mistaken to remember though. Well, Rurouni Kenshin Volume 13 was another manga I have bought, as well as most other manga books I had been collecting a lot as well. Which I remember. Which, this basically of how it got into the whole point of the art of collecting in a different type of hobbies. Because I have been buying some movies on DVDs as well. There's also movies on Blu-ray that were only like $1, like especially when the library is having a book sale. Like, I got into the whole thing because my first introduction to collecting the movie on Blu-ray that I just got introduced of how I started getting into the Blu-ray collecting Blu-ray DVDs and Blu-rays as well, particularly showing you, for example, like I have the copy that I have that got me introduced to, started becoming a Blu-ray collector. If you want to know as well, how I'm giving in the facts for this as well. Like, take this for example, like this on here, because especially that I'm getting into the whole thing about collecting movies on the Blu-ray. Let's say, for example, like I have this copy of The Last Unicorn. This is the Enchanted Edition from Shout Factory. This was actually my first DVD Blu-ray combo I bought, and this got me introduced to collecting movies on the Blu-ray and DVD as well. Especially that I'm doing like these DVD Blu-ray collection videos on there as well, because Blu-rays have more better quality than VHSs were, particularly. Despite that, my VCR DVD combo player no longer works because it died, basically. So the VHS tapes are very old, though. That's how it got to my theory, though, which I remember, though, as well. If I could wanted to know for this as well, of all sorts. From what I have about what I'm saying about for this as well. And this how I wanted to, particularly of what I realized for the fact for this as well. And collecting Blu-ray is a lot more different than collecting VHSs as well. There's also comic book collecting. I do have one comic that I have here, especially under graphic novels on here as well. If I'm not mistaken, though, like this comic that I had, that I recently had in the past as well. Let's take a note, for example, in the whole thing of almost devoting to be a comic book collector under graphic novels. Let's say, like, I have this copy issue of X-Men Legacy Back to School graphic novel. This is like my first introduction on here on the graphic novel collecting, though, because I have my own different types as well, in the whole variety thing, at least, as well, particularly, especially like, or as well, from comic publishers. For example, basically like indie comic publishers and DC, though. There's Marvel. Marvel's a good example if you've ever been collecting comic books from Marvel that are in these graphic novel editions, though, as well. At least for that as well. Because I mentioned this for the whole variety sort of thing as well, if you ask me, though. But that's just besides the point, because I have getting into the whole thing of how I have these types of, in the whole variety of collecting in a different ways for the hobbies and passion. That's why. So that's going to be it for my discussion video, where I talk about the whole variety thing about the different types of collecting and hobby as well for today's discussion video for today, you guys. Thank you for watching, but before we go, here's what I'm going to say for this video. Well, because I have been thinking about doing a video like this, because I have never done one like this before until now, because I have the whole different types of experiences of different type of collecting hobby, what I got as well, particularly, which is more different than any other ones that have been done before. Of course, basically, I had to do this for the whole variety of this as well. For the whole thing of this. Hope subscribe for more content. Links will be in the description down below if you want to check those out, like my anime plan or analyst, if you want to check them out at your leisure as well. Smack the like button if you enjoy the video. Be sure to leave in the comments section below, like, what do you think about the whole collecting hobby in a certain way as well. And also be sure to click on the subscribe button. Be sure to subscribe to my channel, RoniK95, especially if you're watching the channel, because I'm starting getting into the whole different type of hobby collecting. That's the thing, though. And also be sure to smack the notifications bell button. Be sure to get notified also as well for more latest updates on here as well. And just to keep you notified. And that's all I got for today. Well, this is the first time I haven't done a discussion video like this because I have a different type of variety of hobbies and passion. That's why whenever I come by for this, from what I'm saying about as well. Because I'm getting into the whole different hobby collecting thing. That's like in the whole variety of this as well. This is RuRoni-K95 saying thank you for watching my video, and I'm glad you liked it. Hope you enjoy it. Hope to see you soon for the next video. Hope you have a great day. This is RuRoni-K95 signing off, and thank you for watching my video, and I'll see you soon for more videos. Take care.